Brexit.
Speaker, it's an honour to follow the member for Romford. As elsewhere, the people of Warwick and Leamington remain extremely concerned by this crisis the country now faces. I came into Parliament, like others, to work to make our society more equal, lives better through a stronger economy. Therefore, I cannot vote for any deal that will lead to people being worse off. And I have to say, this deal will lead to such a case. We were told over a year ago by the Prime Minister that nothing had changed. Certainly in the past month, nothing has changed. The Prime Minister is still in place, despite the efforts of a great many in this House. A month on from when I was due to make my speech and the subsequent vote on the 11th of December, nothing has changed. There are no reassurances, no reassurances. There is nothing in writing, no changes to the Prime Minister's deal. And let us be clear, it is the Prime Minister's deal. 2.5 years on from the referendum, we learn that the Prime Minister has made her first phone calls to union leaders. We heard on Wednesday that my right honourable friend, the member for Holborn and St Pancras, had not once in the last 2.5 years had contact from the Prime Minister or with the Leader of the Opposition to the Prime Minister. It has also been revealed, disappointingly, a government strategy to marginalise Parliament, firstly from claiming that analyses did not exist and then limiting MPs' access to its economic impact studies, showing the economic damage that would be brought by not just a no deal, but all other deals. The process of Brexit has also shown that for nearly all this time, the Prime Minister seemed to work as some kind of rogue negotiator in parallel to the Brexit Secretary of the day. Evidence came to light during the Chequers deal when she shared with her Cabinet colleagues just hours before, and seemingly the Brexit Secretary was blissfully unaware of the details. Like a disastrous general election campaign when she failed to collaborate with her Cabinet colleagues, and we are witnessing once more the work of an autocratic tendency. These past few months have seen Parliament subjected to what can only be described as relentless verbal waterboarding. The Prime Minister tells us all that it's either her deal or no deal. This week's Brexit Secretary tells us it's her deal or no deal, and so it goes on. This is not a debate, and it's neither leadership. And sadly, it's the Prime Minister's failure to utilise the talents on her own benches and engage those of us across the floor that has caused this impasse. This was brought into sharp focus on Tuesday evening, when the Prime Minister finally met with MPs of all parties on Tuesday to hear our views on why no deal was not an option. I thank her for meeting us, but why did she not consider doing that 18 months ago? 2 months ago, I attended an event here hosted by the Japanese Embassy. The Secretary of State for Bears and Transport were also in attendance, along with many others. If you were present, you will recall that the speech made by the chair of the Japanese Chamber of Commerce, his words were chilling. He said that member companies would act to protect with purpose their investments. That's natural. But let the country be under no illusion. There are 1,000 Japanese companies with major investments here in the UK, employing 150,000 people. They are here because they sought and want continued open access to the European market and European talent. But because the government is playing the ultimate game of brinkmanship, running down the clock, seeking to force Parliament to accept the deal, we are not seeing Parliament taking back control. But the harsh reality of the global economy is that many UK companies own foreign businesses here and vice versa. Just yesterday we heard from Ford and Jaguar Land Rover about the pressing pressures that they face from downturns in the global economy. I mention this because I fear more than anything the social and economic damage that will be caused by leaving the EU's customs union and the single market, neither of which are covered by the withdrawal agreement. If businesses needed any reason to divest from the UK, it is Brexit, and particularly a no-deal outcome. Since the referendum was called, international companies will have been actively reviewing their UK investments and evaluating the risks. Now all this is being brought into sharp focus in the context of what is happening globally, primarily as a result of the downturn in the Chinese economy. And we are seeing that, as I said, with the job cuts just announced yesterday from Jaguar Land Rover. Project Fear of 2016 was misdirected. I am actually talking about what I see as Project Reality and how Brexit will ultimately impact on UK manufacturing, not today, this year or in the next 5 years, but certainly in the next 10. And it is worth reminding the people of the statement made by the economic liberal Professor Patrick Minsford, who claims that any loss of manufacturing in the UK will be a price worth paying for leaving Europe. And universities will be hard hit as well. We've seen that with a decline in the numbers of EU students applying for graduate courses, and likewise for PhD courses in the UK, down 9% on last year. Had this situation not been serious, it surely is a national crisis after all, and the government in the death throes of a final negotiation with Europe, there is no doubt that the Prime Minister would be no longer. 2 days after she pulled the meaningful vote, she was facing a leadership contest. We are running out of time, and that is why I was pleased to support the amendment for the Right Honourable Learned Member for Beaconsfield to accelerate the next steps of this process. We have to move on from the vote next week and consider all the other options. The clock is ticking, and the Prime Minister knows it. Autocratic government is not what is needed in a time of crisis. The Prime Minister's deal must be voted down as an exercise in negotiation, with drawing up red lines right at the very beginning, declaring what she didn't want out of a deal. It has been an abject failure. We must let Parliament take back control of this process and ensure that the people are represented, all options urgently considered. Then let the best deal be put to the public against the option of remaining in Europe. But let us also be clear, no deal is absolutely not an option. Order.